About 2 acts of right-wing extremist violence in just 11 days. Let's turn to Jack Levin, the professor of criminology and sociology at Northeastern University, director of its Center on Violence and Conflict, and also the author of Why We Hate and Domestic Terrorism. Thank you for your time tonight, sir.
Certainly.
5 months, less than 5 months actually, into the presidency of this Democratic president, half white, half African-American, and a shooter opens fire in the National Holocaust Museum 11 days after an OB-GYN in Kansas is assassinated and his women's health clinic closes its doors, apparently for good. Is it a coincidence of timing that these attacks are happening now?
Oh, not at all. It seems to me that we are looking at a confluence of forces that come together to make a lot of people feel threatened. A bad economy, high unemployment rate, an unprecedented number of immigrants in the country. We're seeing an African-American president who has Jewish advisors and who just recently visited a concentration camp and was very critical of Holocaust deniers. You know, if you put all of these factors together, you see that there are lots of racists in the country who simply feel that they have to defend themselves, defend their racial identity against what they see as an attack that's coming from all of these forces that are working together.
Homeland Security, the secretary and the report that was in preparation long before she became the secretary warned of this kind of right-wing extremism under these circumstances 2 months ago. And yet Secretary Napolitano had to apologize for that report because of the outrage, the backlash among Republicans. In retrospect, not to suggest that she has been vindicated in some way, but why in the world did she apologize? This seems to have been the most prescient work done by this department since its founding.
Well, you know, I can't speak for her, and certainly this could have the political motivation. But let me point out something. First of all, it's not the ideology that comes from the right that causes these kinds of crimes. It's the name-calling. You know, these kinds of racists view blacks and Asians and Latinos as subhuman, as animals, and they see Jews as the children of Satan. They don't like Catholics, they don't like gays, they don't specialize. There's a whole bunch of people they regard as less than human and as influences that come from outside of our society. But let me also point out that it's not just the right, the extreme right, where we find this kind of anti-Semitism. There's also a new anti-Semitism that comes from the left, from progressives who blame Jews all over the world, even those who've never been to Israel, never been to the Middle East, support a Palestinian state, but they still get blamed for all of Israeli policies that they don't like. So now we've got anti-Semitism coming from both sides of the political spectrum.
Our reaction to this, I mean, I'm always happy when terrorism anywhere in the world does not cause all the terror it could theoretically cause. But take this sad reality and transform it into that hypothetical I suggested earlier. You know, all the facts are the same, except that gunman's name was not Van Brun, but Muhammad somebody. What might be happening in this country right now? We
might see an increase now, maybe even an epidemic of hate crimes. You know, there are lots of Arab Americans in this country who are prosperous and well-educated, and they have a stake in this country, and the last thing they want to do is blow it up. But if they're mistreated, and we decide that they're all a bunch of terrorists, and we treat them like that, we might actually create the monster that we're trying to ignore.
Are we underreacting to this thing today because it doesn't fit that profile of what terrorism has been defined by the government for the last 8 years?
Well, certainly we've been very concerned, as you know, to fight the war on terror, and we always see it as international, coming from the Middle East or Pakistan. What a lot of people don't realize is that the vast majority of terrorism since 9/11 has actually come from American citizens. It's domestic. It's not international, the vast majority. So first, let's make sure that we understand terrorism before we decide what to do about it.
Well said. Jack Levin, the author of Domestic Terrorism. Great thanks for your time tonight, sir.
Thank you.
The true voice of the Republican Party is no one. No, really. In our fourth story in the countdown, according to a new poll, most people don't know, and even though, as Howard Fineman might say, the RNC, Rush, Newt, and Cheney did rank, Governor Sarah Palin did not. got 4 out of 1,000, 4 votes, not 4%. When asked the open-ended question, who do you think is the main person who speaks for the Republican Party today, Boss Limbaugh was named by 13% of respondents in the USA Today Gallup poll, but 52% of those answering the question did not offer one single name. Coming in third behind no one and Boss Limbaugh is former Vice President Dick Cheney at 10%. In fourth place, a tie between Gingrich and McCain, 6% each. Even among Republican respondents, nearly half can't offer a single name as the main choice of their own party. Limbaugh, Gingrich, and Cheney about tied at 9 to 10%. RNC Chairman and Mitt Romney, the RNC Chairman, Mr. Steele, and Mitt Romney are tied at 2%. And this curiosity, the Gallup poll assigned 9% to other among all respondents, 14% from the Republicans who were polled, which means that Governor Sarah Palin was named among the other. Indeed, the Washington bureau chief of USA Today, Susan Page, reports that actually 3 people out of 1,014 respondents named Sarah Palin. A 4th person added, that lady from Alaska. That gives Palin obviously less than 0.5%. Let's turn to MSNBC political analyst and author of Renegade, The Making of a President, Richard Wolff. Good evening, Richard.
Good evening, Keith.
Republicans asked about the GOP say nobody is in charge. The intuitive reaction is to mock this, but did the rank and file just speak a truth that the leadership was probably not going to speak?
Well, lest we mock too much, and I think I'm actually seeing dancing Rush Limbaugh.
You are,
I could be mistaken. Lest we mock too much, let's remember what Democrats looked like in about this time of year in 2005, when they didn't have the House, they didn't have the Senate, and Barack Obama was more than a year away from thinking about running for president. So things can change, that's true, but the focus on personality is itself instructive, because it wasn't personality that decided things in this election. It was the last election we had. It was policy, and until the Republicans can stand for policy, they can't understand who stands for them. It's a shadow game, or a hologram game, depending on what's bouncing up and down on your screen.
Yes, and you're seeing that because excluding non-Republican views on this, the Republican ranking on it was Limbaugh 10%, Gingrich 10%, Cheney 9%, McCain 6%. Yes, if you're sitting here seeing this, you do begin to bob up and down in the same rhythm. Romney 2%, Steele 2%, nobody else more than 0.5%, which means a quarter of Republicans are adhering to 3 guys who can't possibly run for president, and it's 35% if you count Gingrich in that group.
Right, and that is the deeply troubling piece. If you are one of those presidential aspirants there, 10% for Gingrich and 2% for Romney, all that money and Romney's still at 2%, and the economy the way it is, you know, in this environment, beyond, again, the personality question, but beyond the policy issue, this is the kind of fertile environment for another party to pop up, for a Perot-style figure to try and clamp in onto that sort of discontent, the disaffection with the Republican Party. And clearly these people are not going to go to the Democrats anytime soon. So, you know, strange things can happen in this kind of environment.
Where is, and I think your point about 2005 and the Democrats is superb, but where is the next generation that has already begun to appear within the GOP? Where is Pawlenty in this poll, or Jindal, or Christ, or Sanford, or Palin? I mean, if you don't have a new generation and they aren't beginning to step up, don't you stop having a party?
Well, yeah, it's bad news for those people who I think probably came out of the gate way too early, but I suspect we don't know the name of the next Republican president, and that's not to say they're not active in politics right now, but there needs to be a shift away from the mindset that created the Republican Party of the latter Bush era, if you want to call it that, and the current crop is just too fixed in a mindset that voters have overwhelmingly rejected.
This same poll had another fascinating number. One-third, 33% of Republicans had an unfavorable view of their own party. Is this the proverbial buried lead?
That is the much bigger story, because that is why independent voters are the largest group in American politics right now. That's not because people have suddenly found their independence. It's because people don't want to be associated with the Republican Party. That's why a third party, I think, is likely. Maybe it's not probable, but it's certainly very possible. And that's the group that the Barack Obama White House is really trying to hold on to, even more than I want to put that rush in my pocket right now.
Richard Wolff of MSNBC, and also the author of Renegade. As our thanks, we made it go away. You can take it home and, you know, have it clean out the garden for you or something. Great, thanks.
Thank you.